So it is official that Rick Tocchet is your Philadelphia Flyers head coach. And that news was released Wednesday evening around 4 o'clock. Well, I hosted a show on WIP early Wednesday morning when all roads led to it being official but not official yet. So that's going to be the tone of the show. It's not fully pen to paper. It's not 1,000%, but the reports are pretty much telling us it's inevitable and it's bound to happen. I just want to clear that up so when you hear me discuss it all makes sense to you. But my opinions are all the same, whether it was pen to paper or not. So just giving you that info. Appreciate everybody. Enjoy the show. Now there's some news being thrown around. John Buttagras of ESPN, and then there's some Canadian analysts as well that are hinting it seems as if the Flyers are going to hire Rick Tocchet as their next head coach. It's not confirmed. It just seems to be trending in that direction. It's very blah to me. It feels like a retread NHL head coach. I was hoping for something that moves the needle a little more, something that's a little bit more intriguing, maybe a bigger swing, more creative. I bet you he's here for 4 years, gets fired, they bring in a new coach. Just a typical NHL hire. I wish Danny Briere and Keith Jones were savvier than that. And if you're looking at the actual numbers, he missed the playoffs 7 of 9 years as a head coach. So that means he made it twice. In those 2 playoff runs, first round loss, second round loss. He may be fine, but he's your basic vanilla NHL head coach. And what also bothers me, optically, is they're doing the Flyers club again. Keith Jones, Danny Briere, Rick Tocchet, they're doing it again. Now, I don't know if that means Rick Tocchet's going to fail just because he's a former Flyer. And quite frankly, it's not going to be because of that or not. But you can't pretend that that's not an issue with where the current state of the Flyers are. And before you say, well, Brodes, Chuck Fletcher wasn't a Flyer. Yeah, well, Dave Scott, let me read you. Where's my phone? I don't know where my phone is. Here's my phone. I have this thing screenshotted because it pissed me off so much. When you were at the Chuck Fletcher era, first off, there were guys like Homer and all them up top. So former Flyers making garbage decisions, most likely. Dave Scott was Comcast's top dog at that point. Here's back in 2018, the Philadelphia Inquirer's blurb on Dave Scott. Dave Scott has never ran a team, but he's going all in as the Flyers' boss. Scott, a, quote, cable guy with little sports background, has taken over Ed Snyder's role as the unified voice of the Flyers ownership. Yet I'm supposed to believe that because Chuck Fletcher failed, there's a correlation with not being a former Flyer, or you had hot trash up top of the Flyers organization, and that was the bigger problem. That's why it failed. Not because you went out of the Flyers family. It's because Dave Scott was there on top of some former Flyers. Hate to tell you, upstairs with the Flyers organization at the time, too. Anybody could have saw the bad contracts and all the stuff Chuck Fletcher gave out in Minnesota and knew it would be a disaster. Let's go to the phones, and let's start things off with John in Allentown. Good morning, John.
Brodes.
What's up, dude?
Rick Tocchet. They're doing it again. They're hiring a coach to sell tickets. That's the reason why they hired the last coach, because they knew they didn't have a team that would sell tickets. Now they're going to hire Tocchet because he knows he's going to bring, the old faithful, loyal fans into the stands. Tocchet does not move the needle for me. He didn't move the needle for me when he was a player.
Really?
Listen, dude, I'm 56, so I was watching hockey on black and white TV. You know what I'm saying, dude? When Bobby Clark was skating down the ice against the Sabres and the dude spun around and slapped him across the face with a stick, and and the Rumble went on for a half an hour. Like, I was watching hockey. I love hockey. But that hire does not move the needle at all. Not for me. And Tocchet was a rough player, tough player, but not a great player. Not even a good player, just an okay player. They built him up because that's what they had at the time. He was a checker, a mucker, and a grinder. And, you know, at the time, that's what you needed. But he wasn't a great player, dude. Come on.
I think he's a little better than what you're giving him credit for as a player. But more importantly, as a coach, I do think that it's very blah. Yeah, it's very blah. And you know what's funny? There's people my age that I talk to, and I always talk about trying to appeal to the fan base, and they go, well, Brodes, no one likes this. And I say, yeah, our age group doesn't like it, but there's a group of old school Flyers fans that grew up with Tocchet that are sitting here with saliva drooling down their chin, excited for the idea of Rick Tocchet. So they're doing this to try and win back those people.
And you think at 56 years old, I'd be one of those people, right, Brodes?
Maybe, yeah, maybe.
But I'm not. You know, and I used to love when the Flyers used to play such a tough brand of hockey, man. And until they can get that back, until they get the guys checking at the blue line. You know how hard it was to get into the offensive zone on the Flyers in the 80s, dude? Like, the late 70s and the 80s and even the early 90s. It was tough. Now it just, I don't know, man. It just looks like a soft brand of hockey. I think NHL overall has gone soft. So I can't just blame the Flyers, but the Flyers used to be an exception to the rule. They were always tough. Always tough. The shots were always limited, which is not what it is. And until they get back to playing something that looks like Flyer hockey, they're just going to keep going in the same direction. I mean, this isn't even the same hockey that they played when Keith Jones was playing, man. I mean, Keith Jones was out there knocking people around, mucking and grinding, and, you know, it's just not the same stuff, man. It's not it.
And you know what stings about it, John? And thank you so much, man. I greatly appreciate it. I appreciate the week for sure. Thank you so much for tuning in, even without John Johnson in the saddle. What's a shame is when you watch these NHL Stanley Cup playoffs right now, and you see these guys that are out there scoring a hat trick and Rantanen is lighting the lamp a billion times. And you see Carolina and how they play. And even Toronto, even though the Florida Panthers tied the series up. There's all these teams, right? Whew. We got a long ways to go. And their first move to push us towards that, in their eyes, was someone who missed the playoffs 7 out of 9 years as a coach. And look, I don't think he stinks. I don't, because I don't know if that tells the full story. You're coaching the Arizona Coyotes for a while. That franchise is never really going to be successful. So I'm not telling you he's a flat-out stiff. I'm telling you he's a very vanilla, bland hire. It is a typical NHL head coach that lasts a couple of years, and then you move on to the next one. Where I thought there was a chance, based off of what was being reported throughout the interview process, that there could be something that is maybe a little different, a little outside the box. And I would have respected that. Now, maybe they did the interviews and realized this isn't it. We want to go outside the box. We want to be unique. We want to be creative. But that's not getting the job done. That didn't really rub us the right way when we asked questions and got the feedback. Not that it was bad, but it wasn't what we were looking for. And if that's the case, then you don't just hire someone just to be unique. So I guess I have to add that wrinkle in there. But there's plenty of potential hires out there. To go Rick Tocchet, so now it's Jonesy, Briere, Rick Tocchet. I mean, it's hard to think they're just not doing it again. They're doing it again. They're doing it again. It's just the next wave. It's not Hextall. It's not Clarkey. It's not Homer. It's Briere. It's Jonesy. It's Rick Tocchet. It's the same thing. Just another wave of it. And this is what I keep getting hit with, though. Rod Brindamore, former Flyer, doing well in Carolina. Berube, Stanley Cup winner as a head coach with St. Louis and obviously pursuing another potential run with Toronto right now. And again, it's not that if you wore the Flyers sweater, you're automatically bad at your job. But what I can't have is you not see why people would be fed up knowing that when they've done this over the years and years and years, there was a lot of bad. So when they do it again, for fans to have knowledge of what transpired previously in the organization, you like that? You can't be mad at the fans for having their guard up. We're not supposed to blindly just believe in it when you see a track record of it failing in the past. Just to be excited about what, because they made that clear about let's get excited about the logo again. And I understand they did need to do that. They did need to make the orange and black more powerful again. But they're following a very similar path that they followed in previous spots throughout the franchise, and they didn't work. For one reason or another. Let's go to Ben in Allentown. Good morning, Ben.
Good morning, Brodes. You were saying before how they should hire the guy who was the head coach at, what is it, Western Michigan or Eastern Michigan?
Yeah, Western Michigan, yep.
Here's the thing. Nothing is going to change in this organization, much like the Sixers, as long as the ownership is still corporatized. Nothing is going to change.
Puck it up.
Better late than never. But anyway, so
yes.
The Flyers and the Sixers are in the same rut because they are corporatized and their owner or owners only care about profit. So until they get the picture that we're not going to support them, so long as they keep making money, they're still going to do this. So we need to make them irrelevant in this city. We need to hurt them, like I said yesterday, we need to hurt them where it hurts them the most, their wallet and their pride. The Flyers need to suffer more if they hire anybody because of, oh, look, we hired a former Flyer now, come and fill the arena again. No. We were happy that they were actually looking like they're going to rebuild. And if this is the only reason they hire Tocchet, then we need to just boycott them again. And it's the same thing with the Sixers. So long as Harris is the owner, nothing will change. Draft lottery be damned. So no, your feeling of not being excited and trying to find a reason to be excited, Brodes, do not delude yourself. The only two good owners we have in this city don't play in the Wells Fargo Center. They play across the street from the Wells Fargo Center. So no, don't try to delude yourself. Don't think that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because that tunnel was bricked up long ago.
All right, listen, I'm trying to hear everybody out, Ben. I do tend to agree with you. It's not as if I don't see where you're coming from and I don't lean your direction. I'm just trying to have an open mind. And, Ben, thank you so much for the phenomenal week and a half. I greatly appreciate it. You kicking things off for us pretty much every day until John snuck back in this week. But, listen, the one thing I can't do is boycott the orange and black. Because Matvei Michkov, he deserves my love. He deserves my appreciation. Tyson Forster. I got to watch. TK. I got to watch. So is Rick Tocchet that egregious of a hire to the point where I have to boycott the season? No. That's where I don't step over that line. But it's 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 not egregious. It's They hired an NHL coach. It's just a very move. Let's go to Tom in Alabama. Good morning, Tom.
Yo, Brody, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. What's up?
Not much. Good job, man. I'm glad you're doing well over there, man.
Well, thank you.
Really, we go back a long ways. I know I joke around a lot, but you're one of the best, man.
Well, I appreciate that, Tom. Thank you so much.
You look at the Flyers. I mean, they're probably as bad if you go back to the millennium before, after every decision after that, besides the 1 year they got in at the end and they went to the finals in 2010, I believe. It's just been, and then all they did was draft defenseman after defenseman after defenseman, no snipers, no offensive players. They finally get a goalie, and we know what transpired there. And it's just been a disaster. And now you got a draft where you're looking at 6 guys possibly in the top 50 or something in that range, and you want to bring in a retread who has never won a damn thing, okay? You could get Pat Schweller, the guy who was the Western Michigan coach, and you could have a guy who could coach these guys who are of that age. Rick Tocchet is not the answer. It goes back to the same damn thing that's been going on 50 years, and I get emotional about the Flyers because they were my first love as a kid. I was 7, 8 years old. I saw them cups. I could tell you all about them teams, man. And to see, if you would have told me 50 years later that the Eagles had won 2 Super Bowls, the Sixers won 1, and the Phillies won 1, I'd say, well, how many cups we got? 5, 6, 7, how many? None. Okay, I would never have believed you. But it's just like they're spinning in motion, man. Like they're spinning their wheels.
Yeah, no, dude, I agree. And it's crazy because I'm not acting like I'm super old. I'll be 30, as I mentioned. But there are people who are younger than me, part of this Flyers fan base and part of Flyers Twitter and Flyers content creation and all that stuff. And they talk about how they're 20-something years old and they don't even know what good hockey is, or they're 19 years old and they've never seen a competitive team. And whenever I come across somebody like that, I go, holy hell, man. Like, that is a real dose of reality. And I'm not going to sit here and act as if I've seen all great hockey my whole life, but, I grew up with season tickets and the Flyers, and I was super young, but I know what it was like in the 90s and all, a little bit of going to that building, knowing there was buzz, knowing that this team had pop, knowing that it meant something to the city. And I do remember that feeling a little bit in my life where there are kids who have grown up and they are now in their 20s and they don't have a clue on what reasonable, real hockey is like. And that is a damn shame. It really is. It should never get to this point.
It's a damn sin is what it is, man. I'm here to tell you, I've traveled to Dallas, Nashville, Carolina, Tampa several times. I've spent the money on the Flyers, and I've traveled. And truly, when I tell you that the Flyers and hockey are my first love, but those 2 championships, as great as they were, Clark, Barber, Leach, Perron, the whole deal, okay, as great as they were, they fell into a mode where they stayed with these guys. Kate Smith, Gene Hart's daughter, nothing against her, okay, but it's just always something to do with, back in the day of the organization. They need to forget that, man, and they need to turn the page and start fresh with people outside the organization. I don't want to hear about Rob Brindamore. Yeah, he's been with one team and he's been successful, but Ruby hadn't been all over the place. Rick Tocchet is not the answer, man.
I don't love it. I really don't. And thanks, Tom. I appreciate the passion and the fire for the Flyers, as always. I don't love the Rick Tocchet thing. I just don't. I think he's just a very standard NHL head coach that almost, and I'm not going to tell you he's the same as John Tortorella. I talked to Al Morgani about this, and he said there's a major difference between the two. And the difference is John Tortorella, while he preached open door policy and you can talk to him and he wants you to engage and he wants you to push back, and there's truth to that element that he brought, we've heard stories about Cam York or Sean Couturier not really knowing exactly why he was scratched, why he was sent to the 4th line, why this happened, why that happened. And Tortorella would wait for the player to come to him to approach him. And I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit, but that's sort of the mentality that was. Whereas Rick Tocchet is more willing to tell you why he's going to make this decision, why he's going to make this move. So the communication is better, even though he brings that hard-nosed attitude and that hard-nosed energy, which is promising because I think that element from John Tortorella is what's missing, and that's what makes him kind of a you-know-what. When players say, it doesn't really hit home and he loses the locker room, it's because you have someone as respectful as Sean Couturier in that locker room with the C on his chest, and you're not even willing to sit him down and explain why you make some of the decisions that you do with your lines. I mean, that is a problem as a head coach. So, I like the fact that Rick Tocchet brings that element. But he's just a guy. I think he's just a standard hire. It almost feels safe. That's what it feels. Safe. And maybe they want safe. Maybe they want safe with Mitchkov and Forster and young kids. And when we bring up Oliver Bunk and when we bring up Barkey and when we bring up some of these prospects, maybe that's what they're looking for. Safe. But my issue is, it almost feels like a linear move. Because John Tortorella was going to set a culture. And you would hope after he sets the culture, you bring in that next wave. You know what this feels like for me with Tocchet? Someone who's going to help stabilize a culture. Well, that's why Torch was here. This feels like a culture stabilizer. A safe culture stabilizer. Didn't we just do that? I thought we were getting ready for the next wave. Someone who could bring in their own culture and also develop and be a part of the long term. This seems to be someone who's kind of building off of John Tortorella's culture, and then eventually you have to get the next guy. I don't know. I don't think he stinks. I think it's safe. And I was hoping for a little bit more out of this front office. 215-592-9494. Gary, Brian, Andrew, I really want to get your thoughts. Let's go to Rochelle in Delco. Rochelle, did you hear that you were caller of the morning yesterday?
Good morning, Brodes.
Good morning.
And yes, I did. So thank you and thank Ben from Allentown for deciding that me being raunchy was the best part of my day.
Well, listen, we do enjoy being raunchy. I mean, it is something that is very pleasurable around these streets.
Lots of nuts in here.
Well, thank you so much.
Of course.
I would like to add on to Rose Appreciation Day that I've followed you on social media, and this week and a half is the first time I've actually got to speak with you, and it's been delightful.
Well, thank you so much.
You.
Thank you. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate it.
So I would like to tell you that I was originally rooting for Tocchet to be the head coach of the Flyers because I'm still scarred from the last time we got a college coach in here.
Okay.
Which was, of course, Dave Haskell.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But, you know, after you said that this gentleman, I can't remember his name, from West Michigan, actually has experience in the NFL, maybe we should relook that. Maybe, you know, that would be a better fit.
Yeah, he was an assistant coach for a little bit. I believe off the top of my head it was with the Detroit Red Wings, which is obviously a very respected franchise there. So, you know, he does have some experience, but who knows? I mean, we don't know exactly if it's going to be Tocchet, but it just seems like some people I talk to behind the scenes and some guys who are very tapped in are pretty much just kind of writing it in. So it seems like it's inevitable. And again, Rochelle, it's not that he would be a bad coach, because I don't think he's a bad coach. It's just, it's not something that I go, that's exciting, or like, that's intriguing. I think he is a standard NHL coach that there's 50 million Rick Tocchets, and you just got another version of Rick Tocchet. Does that make sense?
No, you said you figured it was the safe decision, and maybe that's what they're going for right now. But, you know, nobody wins by playing it safe.
Right. And that would be something that you can use against the thought process of bringing in a Rick Tocchet. That's a good way to phrase that. I actually really like that. You're right. Normally, especially with where you are now with the franchise, I think you got to get a little uncomfortable. I think it's good to get uncomfortable a little bit.
I mean, absolutely. You know, it keeps the players on their toes, and I think they learn more that way.
Yeah, you're right. It would bring an energy to the facility every day where There's just this juice. There's this, you're right, on your toes. I think that's what they need to do, but I got a feeling it's going to be Tocchet over the next couple of days, and then I'm curious what the reaction's going to be the day of and when it actually goes down. Is there going to be a positive reaction? Is it going to be split 50-50? I saw a poll that Flyers Nation put out there, and there was about 2,000 votes or so, and it was literally stuck at 50-50 on if people would enjoy that hire. So I'm fascinated to hear what Flyers fans would think the day that it gets announced.
They'll probably say, oh, this is what we were expecting, or a lot like we've heard lately, like from Tom from Alabama, that, it seems to be going backwards. You're doing the old boys club again, and I'm sure you'll get a lot of that. So I'm the kind of person that likes to wait and see, so I really have, no real reaction until I see what the Flyers look like under him.
Yeah, and they need more talent, right? I mean, it's not as if he's going to come here with the same talent and then automatically this group is going to be phenomenal. I mean, it's all based off of the roster construction and getting more help. And if he gets more help, then he could probably do better. It's not going to all fall on his shoulders.
Well, I can't wait to see who we get in the draft.
I know, Rochelle. That's going to be a lot of fun. And thank you so much. Congratulations on Caller of the Morning yesterday. We like raunchy, which is a perfect transition to Snack of the Night coming up next. 215-592-9494. The final Snack of the Night of the Brodes fill-in. Going to go get napkins.
Better be a good one.
Going to go get That's a lot of pressure. I don't like that. I'm just going to do what I do.
Be you.
I'm just going to do what I do. I'm giving it my all this week. Some were bad, some were good, some were average, some were below average, whatever. Giving it my all. Going to get napkins. Snack of the Night coming up next. I also have to tell you, when it comes to the Flyers, it's a very move for me if it's Rick Tocchet. It is a typical NHL head coach that doesn't last very long where he goes. I feel that there are a group of 9, 10, 11, 12 NHL coaches that are all the same. They're the same. There's not much intrigue. You know what you're going to get. It's almost safe. That's what this would be to me. Safe. Fans like him. So when you have Jonesy, Briere, Tocchet, there is this continuity of it's the club again. And there's going to be middle-aged Flyers fans that get excited about that and buy into it because of it. And I'm not telling you not to go with who you feel is right because they wore the Flyer sweater before. That's not what I'm saying. If you think he's the right guy, you hire him. And then the results will speak for itself. But you can't get angry with Flyers fans that get annoyed with the fact that we're doing something very similar. We did it with Hexy. We did it with Homer. We did it with Bobby Clark. We did it with all these guys. They're all former Flyer, former Flyer, former Flyer, former Flyer. Everyone's got to be a former Flyer, former Flyer. And before you hit me with, well, they went outside the box and did Chuck Fletcher, one, there were still old school Flyers guys up in that front office that were telling people what to do even throughout that time. And two, Dave Scott was the face and the big dog of Comcast at the time. And let me read you what I looked up back in 2018, September 18th, 2018, off the Philadelphia Inquirer. Comcast Dave Scott has never run a team, but he's going all in as the Flyers' boss. Scott, a, quote, cable guy with little sports background, has taken over Ed Snyder's role as the unified voice of Flyers ownership. So that's the guy that hired the people outside the Flyers organization. That doesn't tell me anything then. That's the guy. It doesn't tell me anything. And if he wasn't the guy, then it was guys like Homer who were involved in hiring Chuck Fletcher, which means former Flyer made the decision to hire Chuck Fletcher. Either way, no.